welcome to Up Close with Carlos Sang, celebrating art, entertainment, and the human spirit. Welcome to another episode of Up Close with Carlos Sang. My next guest is one of my favourite musical theatre leading ladies who is currently starring in a brand new production of Rock Follies at Chichester Festival Theatre. Her credits range from Romantics Anonymous to Ghost Quartet to McQueen. It's a huge privilege to be able to introduce the one and only Carly Bawden. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So Rock Follies, it was such a huge hit back in the 1970s. And, I think a lot of audiences are coming to the show with a lot of nostalgia, with these characters and, revisiting these stories again. How familiar were you with, Rock Follies before you started working on the show?
I wasn't at all, actually. It was completely new to me until I was part of one of the workshops for it. I think it was the second one that they did. So I then got to know it through that, really. So I had no prior knowledge at all. And I asked my mum about it, and she'd seen a bit, she said, but she wasn't allowed to watch it when she was younger. I think because it was so, I think it was considered so sort of daring and brave, and a bit of swearing, I think, and things like that. things like that. So my mum sort of remembers sort of it being very exciting and something she wasn't really allowed to watch.
Yeah, and playing such a spirited character, Anna. Yeah, and what was it about this character that drew you to her as well?
Well, I completely fell in love with the whole show first and foremost after doing the workshop, and with the whole creative team as well. It was just such a brilliant 2 weeks, and I just loved how complex all the characters were. You feel like you know these people, you really get to know them, and yeah, everyone's just so complicated and nuanced and have their own things going on. And I loved that there was this deep friendship between three women at the heart of it. I think that's what really excited me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. We obviously sadly lost Charlotte Cornwell, who played Anna, in the original TV show a couple of years ago. Were you, sort of familiar with her work as well? And do you feel like, you're channeling, that portrayal as well in your performance?
I wasn't before, actually. I'm ashamed to say, but I have since, watched some of her work, and I would love to watch more. I think she's absolutely phenomenal, and I'm very honoured to be carrying on with the flying the Anna flag. Yeah, I mean, it's an absolute honour, and I would have loved to have had the chance to ask her things and hear all about her experience. It was so wonderful to have Rula Lenska with us on press night. So that was wonderful to get to hear all of her thoughts and share it with her. But I did think of Charlotte a lot, especially on press night.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Rock Follies, when you watch it back now, it was so sort of ahead of its time in a way as well. The
Sorry.
themes and the messages of feminism, were so strong before the 1970s. Do you feel like, we still need feminism in 2023 as well?
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, we do. Everything, unfortunately, everything that gets sort of delved into in this show is still, even though it's definitely changed in its nuance, and it's still extremely relevant today. And I love that the show speaks to completely different people of all ages. So it's so exciting to have people that experience the series come and watch it and have their response and their sort of nostalgia, but to also invite younger people to come and experience this and see things reflected in that are still happening now. So it's still extremely relevant.
Yeah, what do you think has, perhaps changed as well, since the 1970s, for women's experiences, for the way that women are portrayed on screen or on stage as well too?
Well, I think really the thing that has changed, I guess, is just that more conversations are happening about scenarios and about how women are portrayed. And we've still got a long way to go, of course, but I think there's just a lot more conversations happening and people are speaking out about those things as well. And it's interesting to sort of delve into how difficult it was for women in the music industry in the 70s, it being such a male dominated industry. But, also, there are a lot more women in the music industry today, but there's still a lot of, conditioning that we're getting ourselves through and trying to navigate. So a lot has changed, but also a lot hasn't changed.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is your first time as well, performing in the Minerva Theatre as well at
It
Chichester.
is,
It's such
yes.
a wonderfully, intimate space as well, but it still offers that sense of scale within, that small space too.
Yeah.
How has it been, performing in such close proximity to your audience, and how do you think this space lends itself to the piece too?
Oh, it's fantastic. And it's one of my favorite things as well to sort of perform in more intimate settings. Ghost Quartet was actually very similar, but more in the round rather than a thrust, which is what the Minerva is. But I love the intimacy that it brings. But like you say, we still have that sense of scale in the Minerva. So you get to be in a pub one moment and then get to be in an arena the next, which is so exciting. And with the wonderful sound design, it sort of completely transports you, but you still get to feel the audience so close, which I love. You sort of feel like you're just in the thick of it all and you can just sort of get immersed in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I know this is also your first time working with Dominic Cooke as well, who I'm a huge admirer of. And
Yes.
I was actually slightly surprised to see that this is, only one of a few musicals that he's actually directed over his career. How has it been, working with him together and, bringing this show to Chichester?
Oh, it's been incredible. It's been such a privilege to work with Dominic. I've been wanting to work with him for quite some time now, especially after I saw Follies at the National. I didn't get to see it the first time round, but I did get to see it the second time, and I think I went about four times, and I was just completely in love with it. So when I got to do the workshop of Rock Follies, I was so thrilled, and then even more over the moon when I got to do the actual production and work with him. He's absolutely phenomenal to work with. I can't say enough amazing things about Dominic. And I think what I love as well is his passion for this show. It's
Mm,
so palpable, the love and the care that he has for this story.
mm.
It's been an absolute privilege to work with him. It really has.
Yeah, I mean, you've worked with so many incredible directors as well over your career, from Emma Rice to Jamie Lloyd to Daniel Evans to Dominic Cooke. Are there certain things that you look for in a director now? And are there any other particular directors that you would like to work with in the future?
Oh my gosh! I mean, there's so many, but I think the main thing, I guess, is that you get this sense from people. It's very much a two-way thing, I think, and you get this vibe in your meetings. I guess I don't know how to explain it, but you something just sort of clicks, and I think I've just been really lucky. I think that I've got to work with such brilliant people. Yeah, I don't really know how to explain it, but yeah, other than I've been extremely lucky, and you just get a sense in the room when you're working with them that you're a good match, and I hope, I would like to think that it's the same sort of from their point of view, that's just sort of a sense that they get from working with people in the room. And that's what's especially great, I guess, when you get to work with a director in a workshop setting as well. You don't have, just a quick 10 minutes in your meeting to try and form a relationship and work through things and see how you work together. You get more time to build a character and get a sense of each other. So I guess that really helps as well.
Absolutely. I for a long time as well, I think I thought the first time I came across the name Carly Bawden was actually in Ghost Quartet. But when I was actually looking back, I think the first time I came across you was walking past your portrait in the Great Hall foyer at Wellington School. So fellow
Oh my
Wellingtonian
God,
here. Yeah.
no way.
I know. Yeah, I remember, just like seeing the program and just being like, I know that name from somewhere, but I just couldn't like put my finger on it. But yeah, have you been back at all? And did acting always seem like a viable career option for you?
Gosh, I haven't been back in ages and I would really love to go back. I would absolutely love that. I did during COVID, the head of music there, Andrew Truella, invited me very kindly to do an acting through song workshop on Zoom, which I really enjoyed with the sixth formers doing their final performance. And I really loved that. But no, apart from that, I've not been back in ages, and I would love to. But yeah, I've always sort of known that I wanted to perform, and I think Wellington gave me a huge, amazing head start, really, especially the music department and the theatre department. It was such brilliant people there that supported that desire. So getting to do all the shows there and the choir and learning an instrument, but also, I went to a youth group at the Wellington Arts Centre as well when I was young, and I did all the dance classes there, and I did Wellington pantomime. So I'd always been involved in the community, and it's thanks to the community and their support for theatre that gave me my start. So I'll always be so grateful.
It's definitely a really special place, I agree. And I know you went over to Guildford School of Acting, shortly afterwards as well. How did you find that transition, going from this small town in Somerset to this place, just outside London?
Yeah, it was an adjustment. I mean, I grew up on a farm as well, so I'm a proper country bumpkin. So coming to the city was very exciting for me. But no, it was fantastic, and I did the 3 year degree and just tried to soak in as much as I could. But yeah, it was fantastic. I loved it.
I know you also got to go back to Somerset fairly recently as well on Romantics Anonymous at the Bristol Old Vic as well. How was it, getting to go back to, the Southwest and, putting on this, I guess, hybrid show, when people were still sort of locked down?
Yeah, God, that do you know what? That was such a treat to be able to do that during the height of everything going on. To be able to experience that and be in a theatre again. And we even had, one of the performances we had a very small tentative audience, which was fantastic, and quite emotional. Actually, it was mad. But I absolutely love performing in Bristol, and it's so lovely to go back sort of home. And I would love to do it more. But it's fantastic. I think I've been to Bristol Old Vic, I think 3 times. I think I've performed there, and I've loved it. And it was an absolute treat to go back and do Romantics again. Another show that it is very close to my heart. Yeah, it was wonderful.
Yeah, I feel like Bristol, Chichester, these like regional theatres are so special to perform in, getting to go, I guess outside London and give, shows to, regional audiences as well. How do you find that experience, performing in the regions compared to in London?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, well, it's just they're quite different. Not always, but it's hard to explain how. But I love Bristol and Chichester and Sheffield as well is another place that's really close to my heart. The Crucible in particular, I have had brilliant experiences there, and just the shows that they choose to put on are fantastic. But also the audiences in each place are so unique, and there's just so much support and love for theatre, and you really feel that everywhere you go. That they're different, but it's such a warmth, and it's you feel so well supported. It's wonderful. I'm not saying that you're not supported in London at all. It's just a completely different beast, and I don't really know how to describe that, if I'm honest. But yeah, but I really enjoy it.
Yeah, they're all really wonderful experiences. I completely agree. And coming back to Romantics Anonymous, 2020 was such an interesting time for all of us. As you're approaching, doing Rock Follies now, do you feel like the industry is back to normal now, or do you think we still have some way to go too?
I think, I mean, it's hard to say because for me personally, because I've sort of had a little bit of a break. I had the pleasure of doing Carousel at Regent's Park in 21, and then I had a bit of a break, and then Rock Follies has been the first thing I've done in a little while. So I sort of haven't got my finger on the pulse as much as somebody else might have, so to speak. But it does feel, in my experience, like we've still got a little bit of a way to go. I feel like, uh, particularly for new writing, I think it's been especially difficult to get the ball rolling again. So anytime a chance is taken on new writing, that really excites me. But I also appreciate how fragile the industry is right now, and tentative, rightly so, just because of the situation we found ourselves in. But I can't tell as well how much of it is just me, and it was definitely an adjustment for me as well, getting back into the routine again of being in rehearsals and being on a stage again, and performing and just getting in a good routine of all that. I think I underestimated what that was going to be like. So yeah, I think we've still got a little way to go, but I'm excited by what's happening at the moment.
Of course, absolutely. I think it's really interesting, looking over your career. You've done, such an exciting mix of new work and existing work, from, things like Carousel and My Fair Lady to Romantics Anonymous and Ghost Quartet. Yeah, how do you know when to say yes or no to a project?
Oh goodness. I mean, I think just knowing myself, I want to be really invested in a character or in a piece itself, in what it's saying or what it's dealing with, because then I hope at least, then I will do a good job. So I think that's a priority for me, is that I'm just always drawn to something that I really care about, or it moves me, or it challenges me. And I think, oh my gosh, also, I haven't got a clue how to do that, but I'm actually really, that makes me more interested in giving it a try. So, yeah, it's a mixture of things, really, but also I don't want it to sound like I'm extremely fancy and that I always get a choice to say, yes, I'll take that job. Thank you, thank you. No, I won't take that one. I'm not that fancy. um, but yeah, it's mainly about a feeling that you get from something, and whether it speaks to you, or a director you've always wanted to work with, or a musical director you've always wanted to work with and you've admired, things like that. And then the building blocks sort of gradually come together. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I guess, as an audience member as well, when you're going about, when you're not working, how do you decide, what shows you want to go and see? And, what shows have, sort of, stood out to you as well over recent years too?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing, really. I think maybe the main thing is, for me, is I want to be challenged, and I do thrive on variety and being out of my comfort zone, and that's the same for going to see something as to approaching it, being in it. So it's the challenge that's the main thing that draws me. It's what we do it for, isn't it? And it's what we go and see things for. We don't always want to go and see things that directly mirror our thoughts and feelings. We do want to see those things, but we also want to be challenged and to go away and really think about something, and see a different perspective. That's why it's so satisfying playing parts that are nothing like you,
Mm.
um, because then you feel like you've perhaps come away after playing them with a new understanding. So yeah, it's the same. I think the same thing for approaching a part, or a show, as it is to going to see something.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've played so many, fascinating characters, over your career too. Have any characters particularly stayed with you and, made you look at life differently?
Blimey. I think they all have, to a certain degree. I think they all stay with you. And I think that's what's so satisfying about doing a variety of different work, and for completely different reasons. I think interestingly, playing Angelique in Romantics Anonymous, I think I started out playing her thinking, well, I'm not really, I don't think I'm that much like her, and then coming out of it realizing that I'm actually I'm actually quite like her, really. And actually, I have a lot more anxiety than I realized. It's just so interesting what certain characters point out about you, or that you didn't realize were there, or also just getting the chance. I think Assassins is springing to mind for some reason. Getting to really look at a character who is somebody that truly exists, and read all about their life, and have all this research online, all this documented stuff. So that, as an experience, was incredible as well, and that stays with you. But completely different. Not necessarily somebody I can relate to, but is nonetheless extremely fascinating to look at their life.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as I say, it is so interesting to see, your body of work since you first started out. I do want to talk about Carousel at Regent's Park because that production was so radically different to any previous incarnation of the show previously. When you were approaching the show, did it feel like you were approaching this iconic musical, or did it feel like you were approaching a fresh new show?
A bit of both, I think. A bit of both. I think from the off, Tim Sheeder was very sort of open in the meeting about what his plans were for the production, and that he really wanted to do something different with it. It wasn't going to just be. It wasn't going to be a traditional presentation of the show, and that's what really excited me about it, because it wasn't a show I was very familiar with. I have to be honest. And then reading it and looking at the themes that it deals with, I think that was exciting to me, and probably the only way I would have been interested at this time in approaching it, in sort of telling it in a different way. So that was very exciting to know that from the off, but also being completely aware that it's this huge, iconic, stunning musical. And I was aware of the film. So a bit of both, really. But I think with a retelling, there's a bit more license to have a new approach and to shake things up a bit, and maybe slightly less pressure to
Yeah.
uphold a certain view of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was also, really curious, how was it working with Joanna Riding on that production, who obviously, won her Olivier for playing Julie Jordan at the National all those years ago.
Yeah,
And yeah, what were those, did you have any conversations about, approaching
yeah,
this
gosh, no
very
pressure.
complex character? Yeah.
No pressure. Just fantastic show riding. Yes, well, luckily for me, we have worked together quite a few times now, me and Joe. We sort of joke that we should just write each other into our contracts because we seem to find each other, which I absolutely love, because she's so phenomenal and a wonderful human being. So we worked together first in 2011 on The Umbrellas of Cherbourg. We were mother and daughter then. So yes, we've spoken loads about it, and as soon as we found out we were both in the production, we got in touch. And she's such a wonderful, generous, lovely human being. She told me all about the production, and also Tim Sheeder was a huge fan of that particular production at the National that Joe was in as well. So yeah, we had loads of discussions about it. I mean, thankfully, because she's such a fantastic human being. And because we were doing a different version, there was much less pressure, much less pressure involved. But yeah, it's always just such a pleasure to be in a company with her. I'm a huge admirer of her work and of her.
Absolutely. And, of course, Ghost Quartet as well, as we mentioned earlier, you were opening this, brand new theatre, the Boulevard back in 2019. And, I think it was also my first time, discovering Dave Malloy, discovering people like Jubin Bala as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
what memories as well, do you have of, working on that production too?
Oh, that was fantastic. And I was new to Dave Malloy's work as well when the audition came up. Um, and I hadn't worked with Bill Buckhurst before, so that was very exciting. And I loved that it was just, a four-hander, and that it involved playing instruments. I mean, I'm not particularly talented in the instrument department. Thankfully, my track was a bit lighter on the instrument playing, but the other three were just absolutely incredible. I was so honoured to share a stage with them. But it was also such a privilege to open a brand new theatre in the heart of Soho, and another sort of intimate setting. Um, yeah, brand spanking new. And that amazing auditorium that could move around, and so yeah, that was really thrilling to be a part of that. And it was such a, Dave Malloy's work is such a unique sort of approach to storytelling, with all of these incredible different influences, from different genres of music. So I feel like I learned so much doing that show.
Yeah, it was a really, really gorgeous show, and I feel really, really lucky to have gotten to go and see the Boulevard, when it first opened.
Yeah.
We know that it's now also been taken over by, I think, Underbelly, who are going to be reopening it at the end of the year. How do you feel like, that space, will continue to, evolve as the years to come?
Oh, that makes me really happy because I wasn't sure what was going to happen to it, post COVID. It was really unfortunate timing
Mm.
for that theatre, just getting started really when all of that hit. So that makes me really happy to hear that it's going to continue as a creative venue. That's awesome, and I can't wait to go and see something there. As well, I was thinking that when I was performing there, I just thought I can't wait to come and see something. But that's so exciting, and it's
Yeah.
such a brilliant location as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been so wonderful talking to you this afternoon. Yeah, just as the last question, what would you say is the best part about being Carly Bawden?
Oh my goodness. The best part of being Carly Bawden. Ooh, I guess all of the fantastic people I've got to meet and work with, um, in life and in this industry, I guess. Um, I feel very lucky to have had the experiences I've had, um, and to have had the variety of work. And yeah, I've got to rub shoulders with extremely talented, wonderful human beings. So yeah, that.
Carly Bawden, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been lovely to talk to you.